Angie, welcome back to F.A.C.E. How
Hey,
are you?
thanks for having me. Good. It feels like I was just on like last week, but it was early October, I think. So
Well,
it's
I know,
time flies.
I know. The way I schedule things, I stay ahead of the curve. Some people have said to me, "Well, Dale, I don't know if I'll be alive by then, but if I am,
Right?
I'd be happy to be on with you." So, I don't know if you have anything to share, Angie. If you don't, I want to talk about these grains here.
Yeah,
And
I didn't bring anything, so feel free to
okay,
pull up which charts if you guys want to start talking about
okay,
soybeans, we can, or I'm
yes.
pretty flexible, lots to chat about for sure.
Okay, so we had this nice pullback in the
Hmm.
grains, and it was pretty close to what almost like a harvest low, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. It would have been right in
Across the board.
that time period, pretty much right on track seasonally to see that low kind of come into play, as
Yeah,
harvest gets started and the farmers start hedging and things of that nature. And then we build that South American risk premium back in as we head into January. And so you could almost say it's been a picture perfect seasonal style trend here in the bean market, at least over the last couple, 3 months.
yeah. Maybe there'll be. Can you think of anything that could generate a pullback? We've had $2 pop. Maybe
Mm,
we get a pullback in grains to 13,
yeah.
12.80. What do you think could drive that? Good
Yeah.
growing conditions.
Yeah, I think one of the bigger things that we're running into right now is yeah, we've seen some pretty substantially dry conditions in portions of southern Brazil, and into there's a big concern over Argentina. And one of the things that we tend to run into when it comes to guessing what Brazilian production will be is we tend to forget that Brazil is more of an up and down growing area, to put it completely and entirely simplistically, versus a
Right.
horizontal one in the US. So in Brazil, you have this really widespread start planting in September in the northern portion of the
I
country
see.
and kind
Okay.
of work your way down to where Argentina is just really kind of finishing their planting and really looking ahead. January, February rainfall will really be important there. But we have seen some pretty substantial production losses in Paraná, Rio Grande do Sul, Santa Catarina, Uruguay, Paraguay. The question is how much, and so I think in this market anymore, we're so well connected. I mean, any market, we're so well connected that we have this ability to really kind of blow up or make it feel as though maybe something is taking place that is much larger than what it may actually be. For
Okay.
me, though, we have seen this reduction in production. We're no longer talking a 150 million metric ton crop out of Brazil. It's probably going to be closer to 138 or so. So we did take 400 million to a half a billion bushel off from what we were looking at. In my opinion, we basically went from something that was extremely bearish to now we're in more of a neutral situation where we're waiting to see what happens with China, their COVID zero policy, and their demand, here in the months ahead. And that's what's going to have a bigger influence on this market as a whole, I think,
Yeah. Uh,
than anything else.
yeah, I was going to get to China. They have huge stockpiles. Someone said that they might be stockpiling grains because of the water content in grains. Could it be
Interesting.
part
I
of
mean,
they have water problems?
no, I mean, it would be hard if you would think about it from a standpoint of like a dry, like you want to store grains can store well because they're cool and dry. And
Okay,
so you're looking at a good storage moisture level for corn is around 15%
I see.
moisture. And so, yeah, there's some water in there, but I would say you'd probably be further ahead to come up with some other way than trying to sap the water out of corn. There isn't much there. Soybeans store best at like 12 to 13%, and the same could be said for wheat. So we really take most of the moisture out of these crops in order to store them. Now, could you try to find a way to kind of evaporate that moisture out during harvest time? Potentially, but I think there's some other ways to look at water availability versus the grain side of things.
And how has COVID affected farming in the U.S., Angie? Has it been business as usual?
No.
Um, it hasn't, has it?
I mean, it
So,
has been, but it hasn't been, right? Like we're going to continue on. The customers that I work with, the farmers that I work with, and the folks that I work with, across the country and around the world, we have small windows of opportunity to plant the crop and to grow the crop and to harvest the crop. And so we're going to continue to take advantage of that in every way that we can, and going to continue to kind of power through. One of the problems that we tend to run into in grain or with COVID right now is been the biggest thing has been the supply chain issues, not being able to get some of the things that we would like to see, whether it's parts, equipment, seed, chemicals, fertilizer, all of these things have really been a struggle, working with trying to pin down what our, cost of production is and things of that nature has been exceptionally hard too. And then, of course, the supply chain issues down the road. So for livestock farmers, the ability to harvest cattle, hogs, poultry, whatever it may be, obviously the meat packers and the packing plants have had some struggles with staying open, and things of that nature. So, I mean, we've gotten used to, I think, like most anyone else in society, right? We've gotten used to having some of these struggles that we've grown accustomed to over the almost 2 years now, though it's still exceptionally frustrating as to what is taking place.
Okay, Angie. So I'm looking at your new website. Nice. And besides COVID, and people trying to conduct business as usual, what should we be looking for? We're entering, we're a couple of months away from spring. What do you think is going to be the major event for spring planting? Think we'll get a good crop in the ground this spring?
We hope so.
Yeah.
Weather will always be the supreme determination, the determining factor of what we're going to do. You know what I mean? Weather. And so right now we still struggle with what weather is going to look like, in 2 days, let alone 2, 3, 4 months. And so, we are seeing that La Nina stay in place. That tends to create some decent growing conditions throughout the bulk of the U.S., though it does create some real concern over drought in the southern plains, as well as the issues that we're seeing in Argentina, southern Brazil, places like that. I think the biggest thing that we're going to be watching is the cost of fertilizers increased exponentially. I mean, you're talking 2, 3, 4, 500% increases versus a year ago.
And that's because of China not being willing to. Is that where we were importing most of our fertilizer?
It's a part of it. China, we didn't import a lot of phosphates. It was China reduced their phosphate exports, I believe it was, and they account for about a third of the world's supply in that, or exportable surplus. And so that did impact that, but that was just one type of fertilizer. Of course, the energy issues that we're seeing in Europe had caused a lot of European fertilizer producers to slow down on what they were putting out. We've seen some substantial increases in demand in other places, obviously. And so there's just been kind of the perfect storm in fertilizer as well. The issues that we're seeing with Russia, that's both influencing fertilizer and influencing grain prices. The tension that we're seeing between Russia and Ukraine. Yes.
Ukraine was kind of like the grain belt for Russia, wasn't it?
Ukraine is. I mean, Russia it produces a pretty substantial crop on its own without Ukraine. It produces around
mainly, right?
75 million metric ton of wheat a year. So just about 3 billion bushel, which is a pretty substantial crop. It exports a good portion of it. And Ukraine this year has really kind of stepped up and has been, China has been hungry. China has been buying in a boatload of global grains. We had a large position out of the US on early with China, but then since then they've been kind of working out of the Ukraine. Ukraine had a massive crop, a record corn crop last year, and close to a record wheat crop if it wasn't a record. And so if we were to see some sort of aggression there, I think that would impact, what we would see from a grain price standpoint, simply because it would take a large portion of global grain production that we've seen expand in the recent years, and kind of put a big giant question mark on it. The last time Russia was aggressive towards Ukraine, we saw a 20% rally in wheat prices. Now, granted, we started at 550 or so versus starting at 750, but with the world as concerned as what it is about any sort of supply chain style hiccup, especially when it comes to food, this could be huge. And obviously, the fertilizer influence could be big in the US as well. And it's just the geopolitical ramifications, the butterfly effect of all of these little things that are taking place right now in ags will likely keep us supported for quite some time, even if we were to kind of take some of that inflation story away.
Okay, and so how does the Fed think they're going to calm um, food inflation? Any kind of inflation that really isn't that, it's not interest rate sensitive. People
Yeah.
gonna, they want demand destruction, so people have to be broke so they can't buy food that's not there anyway. So what can the Fed accomplish in the ag community? What are they thinking about a new regime by the Fed, and just that they're most likely their costs are going to go up because of higher interest rates, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is concerning. I would say we're at a precipice of something that could be, quite character defining, for lack of a better term,
Yeah.
in agriculture for quite some time. Obviously we've seen it before. We've been here, done that. I've been doing this for 17 years and have traded the new paradigm in grains no less than 4 times. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
we tend to believe that, okay, well, this is the way it's always going to be. There's no way we can do away with inflation. I'm thinking back to 2008,
Yeah.
And that conversation that we had seen, and you pull up a fertilizer chart from 2008, and it'll give you the chills if you're a input supplier. You know what I mean? We
Yeah.
closed out the year at near record highs, and started the spring at pretty typical to even low levels, just because of the fact that we had seen the housing crisis and the economic turmoil that had come from it. And so at this point, honestly, I would say that lumber, oil, cotton, I mean, you look at all of these commodities right now, for the most part, and I would think all of them are kind of telling the Fed that I don't care what you say. And it may
Yeah.
not even be an action that fixes it. I mean, we're seeing all of these contracts see speculative interest come back in, buyers are coming back in, pushing it higher. We still see a lot of conversation of grains are poised to move higher, which they are, obviously from a technical standpoint. We've broken through some pretty strong resistances as of late, and we'll likely try to push up to contract highs in corn, at least I would say, with the strength in crude and the concerns over what's happening with Russia and Ukraine. So, I mean, at this point, I don't think jawboning or even a slight increase in rates is going to do much to fix what we're looking at in this global grains problem. I think a lot of us are
Yeah.
still struggling from a hangover of we have way too much per the USDA going into the fall of 2021. I mean, September of 2021, the USDA said we had more than double, what we would need on hand or would be left over for corn, and then suddenly started to really kind of hack that, down as time progressed. And so here we went from, way too much to not enough. And so we tend to very much swing on the pendulum, but as weather, the weather patterns get more erratic, and the world tries to figure out what the future looks like, post COVID. It's going to be interesting to see, and I think we're all waiting to see what happens in China as they try to proceed with this zero COVID policy in the face of something as contagious as what we've found Omicron to be.
Yes. So when you look at this back to the COVID lows, you had almost a $10 move in beans, right? So
Yeah.
you pulled back five, or halfway, 61.8 here. And if
Mm-hmm.
we have a repetition of what happened here, you're talking beans over 20. And
Mm-hmm.
then if you add a fib extension or something like that, you could be talking upper 20s for soybeans in the coming years if we repeat this cycle. And this was just not the end of the wave, but just the first move out of the hole. So
Yeah.
they all look pretty good here, Angie. And I want to wish you luck. Nice work on your website, and I think we may as well. I think if you guys are interested in grains, that you need to go to counselery.com and get on Angie's list and keep tabs on fundamental developments, because the grain situation, um, the inflation part of food and food security, I don't think is going to go away for a while. So appreciate you being here, Goddess of Grain.
Thanks for having me. I always enjoy the conversation. And
Yeah.
yeah, if anyone needs anything at all, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm an open book and will help in any way I can.
Okay. Are you trading this stuff, Angie, or for yourself at all, or
No,
just
I trade the
curious?
cash side. I try to keep myself as unbiased
Neutral?
as possible, right?
Yeah.
Like the last thing I
Yeah.
want to do is preach my position to my growers, and so I trade
Yeah.
cash grain for my farmers. So I'm actively involved in the market,
Okay.
and the physical movement of the bushels, but I tend not to speculate or trade in my own accord, just simply because if I've done it in the past where I find
Yeah.
myself rooting
You
for one
talk your
direction.
book. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You talk
And
your book. I know it's hard to say, well, go ahead, hedge them here when you're bullish. So,
yeah,
uh,
exactly. So
I
yeah,
understand and appreciate your time. Hope 2022 is a great year for you and your team, and appreciate your time, Angie, for being
thank you
here. And
so much for having
yeah,
me. Have a great
yeah.
day.
Okay. Everyone, Angie Setzer, and you can follow her on Twitter at Goddess of Grain. So that's going to be a wrap. Hope everyone enjoyed listening to Angie and the team today. Good luck. You could join the team in 25 minutes on the Morning Edge. So if you're not able to, it's a good day to join, because we're going to have some great trading opportunities this year, agriculture being one of them. Talk to you guys later. Remember, don't just count your pips, count your blessings. Adios.
Hey traders, this is Blake Morrow with ForexAnalytix. Thanks for stopping by our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like these videos, share them, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of the content that we provide here for free. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you in the next video.